We're going to look to call the meeting to order.
Okay.
We're going to make, I'm going to request that we make a couple of adjustments to our agenda. The first is to, after I open the meeting, to, and select order business, would be to add an item, for Selectmen's report concerning Antolini School. And then the next...
That's under new business?
Well, we're kind of, I'm doing it right after, like, the very first thing we do, so we're not putting it under, it's before the superintendent's report. It's not gonna necessarily be...
Okay, she just gave me an idea, and
Yep.
maybe you just move up,
Move
add
new
that
business.
to, as she said, to new business, and then move the whole new business prior to the superintendent's report.
Fair enough, let's do that, because that makes it easier. So we'll have item one...
Christine then is next.
Then you get to go.
Right.
Right, and that was the next change we're gonna make. The third one, as I like to do, is to, the item K, to put that reports from the standing committees before the old business. So that way, the last thing we do is the superintendent's evaluation, executive session.
Are you doing reports?
Say that again?
Yeah.
Item K moved before
Okay.
J.
K
Before
before
J.
J.
Got it.
Which will now be after H, because I is up above.
All right, everybody repeat that.
So in order to make these changes, we do need a motion to do so.
Motion to amend the order of the meeting as specified.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, unanimous. So the first item, Dan's here. He'd like to speak to us a little bit about some of the plans he's been working on for Antolini School. So I'm gonna give the floor over to him.
Promise Brian and Dr. O'Reilly that I'd take no more than 5 minutes of your time. On this map, everybody knows that we have some space dilemmas in town for our recreational opportunities.
Yeah.
And the back of Antolini is used for fall sports for the kids. So last month I petitioned the P&Z. I talked to Brian and talked to Dr. O'Reilly. Dr. O'Reilly was nice enough to write a letter endorsing a proposal to basically double the size of your field up behind the school through our recreation budget. And went to the P&Z and they went through everything, had this plan drawn, and they approved our proposal last month to go up and basically cut trees in the western side of the field in about 150 to 175 feet, renovate your kids' playing field up there, and basically just enlarging the entirety of the field. So the P&Z went through the whole process. We developed a construction sequence which is quite intricate that shows where you have to put erosion sediment controls, hay-bales, construction fence, the whole thing, and how this will all occur. But they basically approved our field proposal. So if you can envision Antolini being down here and going up the paved driveway and the playscape, this is as the field lays now to this tree line right here. And it will allow us to go into the field, as I said, roughly 150 to 175 feet, square it off, and double the size of this, renovate the backstop area into a regulation girls softball field, which the town does not have, and then create a soccer/football field in the new area. So going through the whole thing, they developed a timeline, how to do it. We've bid this out. It doesn't involve Board of Education funds, but obviously you guys have a vested interest in making the school the best it can be. So we have the money to do so, and the goal for this year is to clear the trees and remove the stumps, obviously put in all the erosion and sediment control measures first, and then take the trees down and get it level and flat, and then next year come back, regrade. The estimate to complete the project is that to make it level, we will need 2,200 cubic yards of fill. And that would be the goal for next year, is to bring the level up. And as you can see right here, there's a line between phase 1 and phase 2. The engineers believe that we could get to here, level, with just the fill that's on site. But to make it all level out to here, we would need 2,200 feet. So, part of the conditions is that we don't work when school is in session. So the contractors that we're working on are evaluating the school calendar as we speak, and I'm meeting with the contractor that we're looking to hire tomorrow to present a proposal of how they would work on, whether it's Thanksgiving vacation or your days off, or weekends and things like that, to work throughout the fall to go out. We estimate that it's a 2 to 3 week process, so he's looking to fill 10 to 15 days of what it would be. We go from there. So, does anybody have any questions?
I assume that they're addressing any concerns that we might have about drainage down, any drainage issues or whatever are being addressed, right?
The field is generally, it has elevations on it so that the water is supposed to continue to run in the way that it has always run. But there are erosion and sediment controls through silt fence and hay bales that is supposed to keep while the field is open up on top of the field. So, I don't foresee it changing the drainage dramatically. Something we'll have to keep an eye on. This is all regulated through our land use office, and they monitor the construction process, and that's why they go through a whole page of
Right.
construction
Yes.
sequence that you have to do just to cut. The affected area is 1.28 acres. So,
I will, go ahead, Keith, go ahead. I will say, I did walk this site with Dan, because I had some questions about it too. It starts in an area that, quite frankly, is at the end of our fields anyway. It's, it's kind of removed from what we have existing already, and it's just an extension beyond. Originally I didn't know what the total plan was, but looking at it, it's really not, what I could see, it doesn't really impact a lot of what we already have up there currently, because it's pushing further beyond, it's expanding a field beyond the tree line. So even with erosion and things like that, they've got to have your protections in place, but it didn't seem to me like, even if that was a concern, it doesn't look like, it's not going to come to the school anyway. It's just the way, it's so far removed from it that it would go elsewhere before it even interfered with any of our stuff, so.
it's really above the
Right.
upper
Sounds
parking
like
lot
it does, yeah.
is the area that we're talking about, so.
One question that came up earlier, I think in some very initial conversations, where are parents, where are people gonna park?
Well, this is,
While the ball fields are being used?
Right, does this plan include parking up above, or is this using
No.
existing parking?
this is just using existing
There
parking.
was a conversation about adding, like handicap, or adding some up on the hill.
They do wanna add 3 handicap
Okay.
spaces up there. You do have handicap walk-up access already. So,
Where's that?
that comes up the
That's,
hill here.
no, I mean that handicap, that's
This is
right
right at the
there.
top.
That's up on the top?
Right at the top of the
Okay,
page.
so that would be like paved more up there?
Yeah.
I know people drive up there now and just kind of park, but it's not, it's grass, so that would change a little bit.
Right.
Okay.
Just when you're talking about maybe 20-foot car length
Okay.
times 3,
Okay.
maybe a 20 by 60 pad.
So this doesn't change the existing parking either for the school?
No,
right now?
the topic of parking was a lengthy
Right.
conversation
It's a much
with
bigger
them
project.
because we talked about the entirety of the school facility and the existing parking in relation to other town properties that are
Right.
used for recreational activities. And right now you have about 125 to 130 paved parking spaces there.
Mhm.
And we talked about breakfast with Santa and some of the larger events, father-daughter dances, the band concerts there. And the P&Z commissioners who are in charge of guiding all these type of improvements were interested in a future plan to expand parking. They weren't going to deny this proposal based on
The current
no
parking.
additional parking, because
Okay.
there is a lot of parking. They asked about how many people might use this field at a given time, and our estimates maybe 50, 75 cars, maximum maybe 100 on a busy day, but you have 125 or 130 spaces. But the conversation did segue into other events held at the school. And I told them, if you're really interested in, a proposal for safety improvements and future improvements, that's something we should talk about.
That's not something we're gonna be forced into as a result of doing this?
No.
Okay.
No,
And
this
certainly it's
proposal,
something that we would wanna consider if we were having a renovation project.
Right, but I didn't want it to turn into where we have to do something we can't afford because we did this, so
That's-
just making sure.
Ted Stoutenberg, who was one of the commissioners, and
Here and then.
Justin tells me that there is an engineered design for more parking for this school
Okay.
on file somewhere. I have
Oh.
not seen it.
Had you seen that in any of your stuff that you were, remember you
Yeah,
went
I
through some of
looked
that
at all the
stuff?
maps, there was, no,
Okay,
I don't
Because
remember
that's-
that either.
that's something that, I mean, we've kind of danced around a little bit,
Yeah.
some of the issues of prior plans that have been in place
that'll
for
be
this.
great, cause everywhere you look, you go over the edge, and you can't.
Yeah.
I'd love to see if somebody had a plan of where to put parking.
Right. Well, that's something I told them that I would look into, because if there's a plan of file, you have to kind of see how it fits.
Yeah. Everything we have for, plans in the schools, I mean, they go back, a lot of them, but it's pretty much any project that's been done, or was being looked at being done, but it didn't include a lot of the outside, unless it was already done. From what I found, I mean, I found stuff that wasn't school related in our building for some reason too.
Does this impact at all the plans for the playscape
No, actually,
as far as property?
Dr. O'Reilly and I
Oh,
met
no.
with the members of the Playscape Committee before this was engineered, and they were fine with just keeping to the specifics of the window that they have, so I met with Jill,
Okay,
and she's all in tune with what's going on here.
okay.
I think even with that though, what's that?
It's a temporary construction access.
Oh, that's not staying there, okay.
It's just grass.
I think even with it, there was still some room to grow.
Okay, no, I was just
Yeah, no,
concerned 'cause that's
me
a-
too.
This, when it gets down to it, and you see this temporary access drive, P&Z approvals include that type of intricacy in the detail. They wanna know exactly where the trucks will drive,
Okay,
because part of this is you're gonna be taking out the stumps from those trees.
right.
So obviously the trucks have to drive somewhere, and they wanna know exactly where they will go, and when they will go, and will they drive when school's in session? No. So how are you gonna do it? Are you gonna do it on days when school's not in session, or are you gonna do it on vacations?
So with that, it's obviously gonna not be done in consecutive days. So while they're in the middle of the work, is it gonna impact the existing?
The only thing that you'll see from the field out there is a construction fence, a protective area.
But it won't impact the field itself, there won't be any temporary.
Other
digging or
than,
anything.
other than
Driveway.
there'll be a fence
Right,
at the edge
right.
of the field.
Okay.
And you, if you
And
look
mark the
hard enough,
driveway.
you'll see the silt fence for the construction that will have to be installed.
Yep.
Other than that, you shouldn't
And
really
if
see-
there were emergency decisions that had to be made because of miscommunication or something, we have an alternate site for kids, and the principal would just relocate the kids to the second area. I don't anticipate that, but it's a backup plan.
The commissioners did not wanna see construction going on when school was in session. That was pretty clear from them, and we're fine with it.
Okay.
So-
It really is kind of further away from what we have. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, okay, it's kind of, it made more sense to me to visualize it, just in the sense that there was a line of trees and that's where the construction starts. And the other side where the grass is, where the existing fields are, that's really gonna remain untouched. There's really no reason to go do anything with that, except for at some point, what Dan was saying was to improve a softball field, but that's not gonna impact any of the grounds that are there currently already, so.
And that's, don't forget, in the scope of doing something like the softball field, the site plan has an expiration date of 5 years with the right to extend for another 5. So the softball field is more of a long-range vision where we're focused on this area over here with the trees. That's not an immediate concern for us to go in right now and do that. We don't have the funds to do that at this point in time. But we do now have the municipal approvals to do that. So, okay, already went over 5 minutes.
Dan,
Right,
just
yeah.
quickly, if you could, I guess, Steve Tuxbury, who's not here tonight, sent me an email, just wanted to go over a couple things. I think you answered some of this stuff already, but just to get his thoughts out here. After hearing that there will be discussion on work to field an Antolini school at tonight's meeting, and not being able to attend, I want to be sure that the board was informed as to concerns I have regarding this work. 1, how will construction traffic be handled? If flaggers are required, who will pay? I think you kind of answered that in the sense that
Right,
It's
there
not going
should
on
be
during
no need
school.
for flaggers, but it won't be happening during when school's in session. So,
who is coordinating work,
that would be me.
when will the work be completed,
That is subject to negotiation. Obviously, we can't work when school is in session, so I'm actually meeting with one of the contractor that I think I'm gonna hire tomorrow as to they're reviewing the school schedule right now, and we're using an estimate of 2 to 3 work weeks to get the tree cutting done. So I wanna see their pitch related to the school calendar to see when the estimated date of completion is.
But
Because that
again-
all goes to how I'll pay them and how we'll break up their contract.
I guess extending that, I mean, you know, I've talked to you about this, but when's the whole project gonna be done?
Well, we think it's really a 2-year cycle. You know, as I said earlier, I think I mentioned that the goal for this year is really to clear the palette, you know, take the trees and the stumps out and make it smooth. And then next year, really get into grading and adding material, because we will need 2,200 cubic yards to make the entirety of the field level. So if we get the palette clear this year, then next spring, summer, budget season come in and add the fill to make the entirety level and up with the appropriate amount of topsoil, which I think they require 6 inches of topsoil across the field, the new field area, and then seed. So whatever it takes to then grow it. So, you know, maybe this time next year, we're adding fill to the site and grading, and then seeding into the fall. You know, it's just a matter of growing it from that point. You can't play on a newly seeded field, it takes time.
Are all the funds secured for the 2-year project, or are you assuming that?
1 year at a time. So we have the funds to clear the trees at this point.
So there's some risk, however small it may be, that the funds won't be there to complete the project. Just a question.
I don't consider this a, I would say that there's, the risk that is associated would probably be just as risky that the school board budget would have trouble getting passed. I mean, we're talking about nominal funds. We allocated $25,000 in our budget to clear all the trees, and we have bid underneath that. So when you talk about the size and scope of projects for a town, it's not a large project. So to match that with a budget estimate to complete it next year, having had the success of clearing the palette in 1 year and having successful bidding and meeting that budget, usually gets you some goodwill from the board of finance members of your numbers are real, you're getting the work accomplished. So I don't see a high level risk. You never know, something may happen. The economy goes nosedive on this point. I don't see a large level risk. So especially when you can see the phase line, you can get greater than 50% of it, maybe 55 or 60% of it level at grade just from fill on the site. So 2,200 cubic yards is not a tremendous amount. So last week we bought in 1,000 cubic yards on steel. So,
Just a couple, just to finish this off, and once again, I think you've already answered some of these, but where is money for work going to come from? Will there be any kind of link to BOE in any way to this project? If so, in what way?
in terms of funds, no linkage. This is town the budget is capital, and it is town municipal / recreation project capital. So there's no linkage. You guys don't have any linkage.
And will this project be linked to windows and door project, as the BOE has other needs that do not include more field space?
No, really apples and oranges. You know, this, as I said, is really a small dollar amount project. The windows, doors, and thing is a larger, more substantial. It doesn't have funding behind it yet. We're in the last year of the Bakerville bond payment cycle, and as we've tried now for 2 years running to try to pay cash at hand for what was windows, doors, roof, and furnaces, now down to windows, doors, and roof, is I don't see any other way of whether paying cash for that, but eventually going for the bond issue of those. So, you know, this is less than half of what the debt service will be on a type of project.
So obviously, you're not looking at combining this with the bonding project that we
No.
might be looking to do?
No, as anything I said, and I'm really going longer than I wanted to go. The revelation of the P&Z process was more geared towards the P&Z's commissioners' interest in parking. So when you talk about windows and doors and roof, it should probably include parking.
That was
Because they
something we were interested
they
in
were
doing
keenly
anyway.
aware, and I think that's the research that,
Yeah.
you know, to make sure that you come with a cohesive package, because they weren't gonna deny something that, don't forget, you already have approvals for existing uses, kids are already recreating up there, you know, and you already have, the improvement is already approved, you're just expanding it, and the use is already approved, and the kids are already playing, so it's really not a controversy here to create something new, you're just expanding something that basically already approved, you just make it bigger. But, I think the P and Z commissioners go like this with Santa too, they know how many cars are on that road those days, so they're looking for us to make it safer in the future.
I do have a question about this temporary access driveway. What is that?
It's just, that's the
I
location
mean,
where
it's
they'll
gonna
drive.
turn into mud, right? It's gonna stay nice grass, cause I mean, the kids come up here and run around and then they go here. So what I see is this becoming a disaster and then being told the kids that they can't go past that anymore. And then it does restrict their play area to the playscape, which is just mulch.
I understand your concern. I would just say is that that is some pretty hard pan material up there. Could it turn to mud? Is there a remote probability? Of course there is. I don't think that it will. I don't think that you're really talking about, you know, the construction entrance of us coming in here with a truck to remove stumps on what will be 2 weeks of tree cutting. I mean, I couldn't put a number on how many truckloads of stumps we might have to take out. It could be 20, it could be 30, it could be 40. But I don't see that, you know, turning into a mud basin up there. It's just,
So if,
I drive my Jeep up there all the time, it doesn't.
but say something does happen, are you going to take responsibility for repairing that so that it goes back to the playing field that we need during the school year?
And the extra cleaning costs for the mud in the building.
Oh, is where I was going with the question,
Remember
so.
that you're
It's
having
true.
your
Wait,
meetings
wait,
with no, there's no rental on this road. Just have you know.
Nor in my office, right?
So,
I just wanna make
obviously,
sure if it becomes a big project, that we don't get forced into using the lower, because you've been in our playground committee meetings, already. We don't wanna move the kids to the blacktop for the year, because we can no longer get them into the field because it's a mess. I don't wanna see, it's great project, I don't want it to turn into a negative.
To Dan's
That's
credit,
all
he
I'm
has
saying.
always worked with me with these issues, and if there is an issue, I'll talk to him and we'll settle it.
The other thing too, I mean, realistically, if you think about it, I mean, you're just starting to schedule, nothing's happening before school starts. So now you're talking about getting into, you know, you're gonna, maybe November break, maybe December break, you know.
if we were dealing with a summer like last summer where it rained every week and it was really muddy, then I would be acknowledging that we might have a problem. It's been so dry this year, I mean, it is dry as a bone up there. So,
Yeah, please knock on that wood.
okay, I gotta go,
got 4
my
more
family's
days.
waiting for me. So, thank you for your time. We'll keep you updated on it. Brian and I see each other all the time, so.
Okay, thanks,
I'll
Dan.
see you every week.
Yeah, tell Mrs. Jerram, thank you for the Antolini beautification.
She was at Antolini weeding all weekend,
Looks good.
so.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, guys.